Hello and welcome to the Focal Events Dirty Reiver Diaries. Your hosts today are Brian Singleton and Neil Atkinson.
Good afternoon, Neil. It's mid-February. It's been a bit wet. It's been cold. We've got snow on the tops. 2 months for Dirty Reiver. I know the weather's going to change around, and it's going to be glorious, isn't it?
Well, it is. To be honest, it is. Yeah, we're having a little bit of flooding down here where I'm at. But yeah, it'll get there. This makes the whole thing, though, doesn't it? You know, you've fought through the winter to keep fit, and then all of a sudden, when the nice weather comes, yeah. Should we stop talking about the weather just in case I get a bit too depressed about it?
Absolutely. I think that's it. So yeah, we're about 2 months out from the Reiver. This is our 10th anniversary. Have we said that before?
It might have just done it a couple of times, yeah.
Anyway, this is our 10th anniversary. This one, and yeah, we're kind of really looking forward to it. We've got quite a lot of unique things going on with brands. More going out in the newsletters soon. We've got a 10-year theme running through this podcast. We've got some new sections of the course. Can you remember where they are, Neil?
Off the top of my hand, when I'm riding in Kielder, it just all morphs into one, to be honest. But I do know that there's some really nice sections out there. And yes, it's been wet at the moment, so it's a little bit draggy under tyre and stuff at the moment. But it's just, you're out there. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. It really is. It's just wilderness in really.
Yeah. I think the important thing is that, you know, pretty much most conditions, Kielder rides really well. The gravel there is really good. It's only if you get that freeze thaw and it turns into porridge, then it becomes a problem. Yeah,
you've had a slight issue with that in the past, haven't you?
I have had a slight issue with that in the past. Yeah, it involved quite a lot of walking and a somewhat bent rear mech.
Have you got over that yet, or do we need to have a bit of counselling about that?
No, I'm seeing someone. Yeah,
cool.
So we got. Go on.
No, I was going to say. So what we got coming up on today's podcast?
Well, following on for that anniversary theme, which I thought I just mentioned, we are actually going to be looking back at 10 years of Dirty Reiver. 2016 was the first event. It does seem a long time ago. I don't know what happened in 2016 that was notable.
It was cold. It was really cold.
It was.
Yeah. No, I can remember that.
And generally, what happened that year? You know, people sort of come up with these facts like, remember, 2016, it was the year when somebody did something, or
I'm sure something specific would have happened, but you can't just throw that on me now without me doing any research.
Well, I only just threw it on myself. 2016, it was the first Dirty Reiver. I think we had about 400 riders, and we had all weathers in one day. I think it was blizzard in one minute, and then the sun was out, and yeah, it was quite memorable. And yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about that in this next podcast and look back over the last 10 years with somebody who has completed all 10 events. Can you imagine that? 10 Reivers, that's 2,000 kilometers.
Well, has he completed them all? Well, he hasn't completed all 10 yet, though. Not all 10 yet. No,
that's true.
Yeah, so we maybe just getting the cart in front of the horse.
Kilometers. I'm sure he'll have done 200k warm up.
I'm sure he would have done. Yeah, I'm sure he would have done.
Anyway, we're going to be chatting to Phil Simcock. One of the legends of the sport, and certainly one of the legends of Dirty Reiver. And we're going to spend a bit of time chatting to him. And we're going to also bat it to you as well, Neil, because you're going to be on the receiving end of my questions, because you are, out of the duo of us, the only other person who's ridden the event. So
this time round, yeah. And did you tell people it's 10 years this time?
Good point. Glad you said it. Right. Let's go straight in and find out what Phil has to say. Right, well, it's a real pleasure to welcome to this podcast somebody who is always a bright and cheery face on the start line of Dirty Reiver, and we've got with us Phil Simcock. Welcome, Phil, to the chat.
Yeah, welcome. We're glad to be here.
And also a little bit unusual for our normal chats is we're going to be I've put Neil on the other side of the fence this time, so Neil's not going to come forward with any awkward questions. I'm going to try and pin him down with some awkward ones, but we'll get Neil's tales from his experiences riding Dirty Reiver. So just to put this into context before I do a quick introduction, it is the 10th year of Dirty Reiver, and I thought what a better way to sort of celebrate that than to have some conversation with somebody who's actually ridden all 10 Dirty Reiver events. Now, I think we do have other people that have done them as well, but Phil is gladly thrown himself into the mix to come and have a bit of a chat to us and tell some tales from some of the experiences he's had. And also Neil, who has had the fortune or misfortune, depends which way you look at it, depends which year it is, of having completed or competed in the event, depending on, again, on how you look at it. Whereas I have been sort of behind the tape on each year. So, yeah, so it's brilliant to have you two guys with us. For those of you who've not sort of met Phil before, kind of Phil is, well, I would term a kind of a talented UK multidiscipline off-road rider. He is, kind of won many events on mountain bike marathon, 24-hour cyclocross with podium finishes at national level across all of those disciplines. I think overall winner at Strathpuffer as well. Was that in the pairs, Phil?
I've won it twice pairs, me and Rich Rothwell, and once as a solo. Yeah.
Good effort.
I've done it about 6 times. I don't know why, but yeah, at the time it felt like a good idea.
And also, am I right in saying you were 6th elite in the world 24-hour?
Yeah, that was, we did 20, we went over to Finale Ligure. I can't remember the year now. I did. I had a good race, came 6th there. So that was probably my best 24-hour outside of the UK. Yeah.
Well done.
And interestingly, out of all of those, that's none of the reasons why Phil sticks in my mind, because my story of Phil Simcock comes from watching him as a dot watch on Highland Trail. And I can't remember what year it was, but it was a few years ago now. I think you entered the Highland Trail, Phil. And kind of every night we'd kind of finish watching dots and say, oh, Phil's at such and such location. We'll get up in the morning and see where he is. And then we'd spend the next 10 minutes trying to find where Phil was. And Phil had actually have ridden all through the night, not only done that, but completed massive distances, and put in what is, I think, quite widely regarded as one of the rides in the Highland Trail over the last years. So that was kind of one of my real sort of standout stories of Phil's cycling background.
Yeah, long time ago that now, a long time.
That's another one a long time ago now. Interestingly enough, when I was kind of looking into all of this, AI came up with a little summary, and I just wanted to read out the summary, Phil. Are you prepared for this? It said, Phil Simcock is a highly accomplished endurance mountain bike racer who has achieved multiple significant victories, notably with Team JMC in 24-hour and long-distance events. And I think that summarizes it quite well. So what I then thought I'd do is, well, what would happen if I put Neil Atkinson in there?
Oh, God.
So then it came up with this. So I'm going to read out what came up for Neil. It came up with Neil Atkinson is a prominent figure in the British cycling community, primarily known for his leadership and event organisation within mountain biking and gravel racing, rather than as a professional elite competitor. And I was looking at that and scratching my head and thought, is that the Neil Atkinson I know? because I know a little bit better, because Neil actually has been a world champion on adventure races. He has been an elite winner of multiple events. And how many times did you win Strathpuffer, Neil? It's been at least a couple of times, hasn't it? So I don't think AI can have the answer to everything. So anyway, it's great to have you two guys. I just wanted to kind of outline the caliber of the company that we're keeping. And now let's, get on to the nitty gritty in Dirty Reiver. It's in its 10th edition. You've not missed one, Phil.
No, been to every one of them. Yeah.
That's been to every. And I often think of Reiver as we alluded to earlier, it's almost been, because it's been around for 10 years. It started in 2016. It's effectively a snapshot of how gravel has developed over the last 10 years. And when I think back, and I was actually looking through some of the pictures from some of the earlier events, it's like, how did it even get to where it is now? I mean, Phil, some of your recollections from those early days in terms of the bikes that you had. I mean, what did you turn up for your first Dirty Reiver on?
Yeah, I was looking at some pictures earlier because I couldn't quite remember, and it was basically the cross bike I was using at the time. So I'd started doing the 3 Peak cyclocross a few years before that, so I'd got a few of those under my belt. And I'm just looking at the picture, and it was basically my 3 Peak setup that I rode on the first Dirty Reiver. So it was a Kinesis cross bike. I had cable disc brakes and 33 mil tires. So what's that? Sorry.
What pressure in the tires
were quite quick.
What pressure in the tires? I have no idea, but I'm sure it was something like 50 or 60 psi because I was just so afraid of getting a puncture. Because back in them days, you didn't have inserts, did you? And tubeless was, the tubeless tires were a bit not the best. So I would imagine I would have probably rolled around rattling around on 50, 60 psi at the time.
Yeah.
It does make me cringe thinking 33 mil tires for 200 kilometers on gravel, but
yeah. And when you look back at the other bikes that were around at that time, I mean, I remember on the start line there was everything. I mean, there were obviously quite a few cross bikes. Hardtail mountain bikes were definitely, in the majority. And we also had, the right eclectic collection of fat bikes and, kind of touring type bikes. And I guess people just didn't know what gravel was all about. We'd heard of it in America, but we hadn't really had any experience of it in the UK.
No, I do remember those first few. The majority of people I was riding with, it was either a mixture of mountain bikes or cross bikes. And it was most of the people who were riding are the people who'd done long distance mountain bike events. So it's people I knew from the 24-hour circuit, or whether we'd done the Kielder 100, or people at the 3 Peak cyclocross. They were the people we were racing against at the time because there wasn't a gravel scene.
No, exactly. Yeah. And I think when you kind of see that the leaps that there's been over the last sort of 10 years in terms of that sort of technology side, I think we'll kind of come to that in a bit, but yeah, just having that snapshot I think is fantastic. I mean, what bike were you on the first time, Neil, you rode?
I think and I just looked through my pictures and I can't remember, but I think I must have been on my 29 a hardtail mountain bike. But I can always remember a guy with a really big beard on a purple carbon fat bike. It was beautiful.
I remember that as well. Yeah.
Every time I went uphill, I passed him. On the downhill, it was like a tractor coming past you. It was ridiculous. Honestly, it was stunning. But he was an amazing rider. He really was.
Yeah. And that's fantastic. I mean, I think that's maybe, obviously they say that gravel's inclusive. I think that's just a case in point, really, isn't it? I mean, that everybody on anything. I mean, I remember guys with like panniers, and they must have had so much kit with them. But I guess as you were saying, Phil, 200k in those days was a heck of a long way.
It was, yeah. It's interesting what people bring with them, isn't it? And I suppose it just comes with experience. If you've got a lot of experience of doing longer rides, you probably know you can get away with less. Whereas if it's your first attempt, you don't want to find yourself out there without enough food or enough gear. So it's interesting how the range of things that people carry, but it's to the individual, it's important, isn't it? The people need to feel comfortable when they're racing.
Yeah.
And I can remember on one of the first ones, it must have been first or second year, we went through a river crossing, and there were so many people stopping, taking the shoes and rolling their tights up so they didn't get wet, drying them off, and then carrying on the next time. As now everyone just piles straight through anything like that. It's just like, well, if I'm going to get cold, I get cold. And it was really quite interesting how people dealt with just things out of the norm at that stage.
Yeah. I do remember the river crossing. Yeah, I wasn't prepared for it when it came up, but I remember it was just crashing straight through it. Yeah.
I guess that's what it's like at the sharp end, Phil, isn't it? You don't want to be rolling your socks up and keeping dry.
Well, no, that's it. But it's interesting you talk, being at the sharp end. I mean, I do remember on the first, because I've raced 9 out of the 10 with Dave Powell. So
Right.
Dave Powell I've rode with, he's a riding mate of mine for a long time, and we did the first one together, and we basically rode through most of all of them. The only one that Dave didn't do was the one which got moved into the autumn time because of COVID, and I think it clashed with something else he couldn't do, so I rode that on my own. But I just remember us at the time, I suppose we weren't prepared for a race on the first one, and there was people who turned up there and gone for the race. So we were a little bit off the pace, and I do remember that his second year we went back, we were like, right, this year that's not going to happen again. We're going to make sure we're going to be in that front group, because like back in them days with these smaller groups, weren't they, smaller numbers, and you really just had to be in that first group of riders, and if you didn't get in the first group of riders, then you'd never catch them up. Where it's a lot different now, the caliber and cross section of races that are doing it's completely different. But back in them days, it was that first group was where you needed to be right from the off.
Yeah, and then one for both of you. When did you first? How far into the Reiver cycle, if you like, did you sort of get into the we need a gravel bike, or did you have your first gravel bike for a Reiver event? How long did you persevere with a cross bike, Phil?
I think I'm trying to remember now. I think I've stuck with a cross bike for quite a long time, and even now the bike I use for gravel, I use as a cross bike as well, but it's just got more clearance to it and a more comfortable setup. But it's still good enough for both. I haven't got a specific bike, but yeah, I think I did change the cross bike though to one with wider clearance, so I think by the third year I'd gone from my 33mm tires to 40mm tires. So I'd sort of needed to realize that you needed to have something wider if you're going to be a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I was 2018. I think I swapped over to a cross bike from a mountain bike, and it must have been 2018. And I know I can remember having a conversation with you going, "You don't want a cross bike, Neil, go for a gravel bike." And I was like, "They're the same. What's the difference?" And then now having a quiver of gravel bikes downstairs, there's a huge amount of difference. And
yeah,
it really is. It's a different game completely these days.
Yeah, I think the thing I found was because of racing in cross, and then I was doing the dirty races and similar races like that, and racing the mountain bike and doing stuff on the road. I just couldn't afford to have one bike for every discipline, or two bikes for every discipline. So the earlier cross bikes did work well. It was just you just needed the tire, the tire clearance and the bigger tires really on those earlier days. But yeah, as you say now, some of the gravel bikes you can get, which are tuned for this type of racing, are fantastic.
Yeah, and you can see, when you look at where gravel bikes are now, and you look at, I think we're at sort of third, fourth generation of frame development, and the thing that's consistently increased is tire clearance. I mean, you look back, and I remember when, first few years, people were thinking, oh, we need a 38, and then it was a 40, and now it's a 45, and now we're on we're on 50s, and you look at some gravel bikes, and they've even got 2.1 mountain bike tires in. So yeah, it's definitely that's definitely one area where things have gone. Just obviously, you've both accomplished off-road riders. Do you think that for the Reiver has been a real benefit in terms of doing well on that course?
It's not particularly technical, is it? But I think having the handlings, you're going quite fast on the downhills, and you're trying to stay with people. And I think having the ability to handle a bike at speed round corners on gravel, it does help. It's not the technical side of it, it's just the understanding how your bike's going to move beneath you. I've seen quite a few crashes on corners where people were just not prepared for it, or couldn't really handle the bike at the speeds we were going at, because you just get drawn in with the speed of the group you're in. And if you've not got the technical ability to stay at that speed, you'll try because you don't want to get dropped. But then you could, I've seen a few bad accidents where people have just not been able to hold the line.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And it's on those descents where that difference of letting your bike move below you is a real key thing. As a lot of people who don't understand that, they just really, really grip the bike tight and just are rigid on it. And then that's when they get into trouble, because as soon as your bike starts to move, or it goes onto the top of the gravel and starts moving below you, we can then just go with the flow and ride it out as other people panic. And that's when they put the brakes on, and that's when it all goes completely wrong.
Yeah, I do remember, and I think because you change, each course has 3 year period, doesn't it? You use the same course for 3 years, and then you move on to a different one. And the first 3 years, I do remember, and I can't quite remember where in the forest it was, but there was a long downhill about halfway, and I do remember that downhill being quite techy or quite lumpy. It wasn't a true gravel track, and I only remember it because, and I remember Ant White and Keith Forsyth at the time were all racing together, and we'd all got to that point together in a group. They were on mountain bikes. Me, Rich Rothwell, I think Rich was there, Dave, maybe a couple of others on cross bikes or gravel bikes, and they got to that downhill and they just dropped us for dead because they were on mountain bikes, with suspension on the wall. But by the time we got to the bottom and we caught up with them, then the rest of it, the cross bikes won because there was less drag on the tires and a bit more nimble. But I do remember that downhill. They dropped us all because they were on mountain bikes.
Yeah, I know exactly where you mean. It's as you drop over past the other side of Spade Adam, and you go out of the forest and drop down onto the little lanes before you can then come back onto the Scotch side. Yeah.
I don't think you've not used it for a while, have you? Since then, I think that was the last time. Back that first 3 races.
Yeah, you might have planted a seed there, Phil.
It'd be a lot easier now with bigger tyres, but 33 mil.
Well, it would do. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Well, I was thinking we could come up it.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the bikes have developed. I mean, I think one of the key standouts for me, obviously other than them going from cable actuated brakes, Phil, to hydraulic ones, is the kind of gearing, because the gearing really has changed, hasn't it? I mean, that more now reflects mountain biking gears, or how mountain biking gears have kind of progressed. Really, I think gravel's really, kind of taken that on board, hasn't it?
Yes, I definitely. And again, when I look back on the cross bike, I couldn't quite see the block at the back, but it wasn't that big, whereas now, I ride a 42 on the back for most of the gravel races and a single ring at the front. Whereas I had a double ring at the front on the original cross bike, and a much smaller block at the back, but I can't quite remember what that was.
Yeah, I would imagine block it'd be like a 20 something, would it?
Yeah, I've no idea. I do remember though, Dave Powell always grinds a big heavier gear than me, so he was always riding quite a spot. He was just riding the road, but a road cassette on the back. Yeah.
Good effort. I bet his knees were hurting at the end.
I don't know. He's a real powerhouse, Dave. So yeah, you just ground away. Yeah.
I think I read somewhere that I think when Josh Ibbott did his first one, or even Bebby's first 2, they actually turned up on road bikes with 28 mil tires on.
Yes. Yes. I sort of remember when Josh did he do it after maybe about 3 or 4 years? I remember when he came, he was right up at the front pushing pushing along. I think it was the 3rd year actually, Josh, because I think he came second. Yeah, I think Harold, somebody or other, came first, and then Josh was a close second to him.
Yeah. And Harold was on I think he was on a mountain bike, so he maybe won a couple on the 29er.
Right. I can't quite remember that, but yeah.
So yeah, it just shows you don't have to be slow on a mountain bike.
Yeah, I remember one year, and again I can't remember which year it was. Matt Page turned up with a disc wheel on the back.
Right.
And God, it was noisy. It was so noisy. He did well because he's Matt, but it was bloody noisy with that rear wheel. You could hear it behind you.
Yeah.
Like a tank.
So when he said he was behind, you could hear it behind. Could you hear it in front?
Oh yeah.
All right. So
until he
you were,
dropped me, and then I couldn't hear it anymore. Yeah.
so you did draft then. That's all right.
And I think as well, I mean, obviously, we've seen a lot of development in terms of, kind of the kit, but I think, another area that's really seen some improvement is just in terms of, the riders. As you said earlier, Phil, kind of when in the early years, it was, people who had an association with maybe mountain biking or had done, mountain bike marathon or Audax or something before, but then, as gravel started to grow, we really did see a very diverse a range of people coming in from all sorts of cycling backgrounds.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's the way it's grown and opened up to everybody. So you'll be getting people from the mountain bike backgrounds, road, cross. It's much more of a mix of people now, and you can definitely see that. When we were racing the first few races, there was a small group at the front, all trying our best to sort of. I know it wasn't a race, and nobody won it, but everyone wanted to be the first back. But then that just has got more competitive year on year now, and now you look at some of the quality of riders at the front of the race. It's unbelievable, really. Ex-pros or current pros, really, on some of the more recent races, and the times that they're putting in are just astounding, really.
Yeah. And with that in mind, then, Phil, obviously, you're saying at the start of the race, there's these big groups, etc. What would you say to somebody who's maybe not done something before, who's, maybe doing their first Reiver and is feeling sort of quite fit? And, what would your advice to be in those first 15, 20 kilometers?
Those first 15, 20 kilometers they're so fast. They are unbelievably fast. So we follow the lead vehicle out, and everybody's queuing up behind that lead vehicle. And as soon as it pulls out of the way, it's just, you're off. And I think you've just got to be careful, because if you rode long distances before and you know how your body reacts to that sort of distance, and you're comfortable that you can maintain a certain power level or a certain heart rate, then that's fine. But if you're new to it all, then you've really got to be careful in that first 15, 20 kilometers, because 200 kilometers is a long way. It's a tough day if you burn all your matches in the first 20k, and then you've got another 180 to go. And the other thing as well is, I've spoke to a lot of people over the years and got them involved in coming along, and the thing I've just said to everybody, it doesn't really matter where you are in the race, is always just try to be with other people, because it's so much easier if you can share you're getting your nose in the wind and just having a bit of a relax behind somebody on the more flatter sections. Whereas if you're on your own, unless you're happy with your own company, it's a long day out going up and down those hills. But I found myself a couple of times that I had a couple of mechanicals on various years, and I found myself on in no man's land on your own, and it is tough, knowing there's people behind you and there's people in front of you, but you can't see them, and you just got to crack on. It's always good to be in a group.
I can remember one year it was a really windy one, and we went into Wark Forest, and it was a really cold wind that was blowing, and as soon as I got in there, I couldn't see anybody in front of me, I couldn't see anybody behind me, and it felt like it felt like weeks I was riding by myself. I was trying to eat, but I couldn't, because I was trying that hard into this wind. I was getting cold because I wasn't riding hard enough. It was just like, I was just in bits at the end of that.
Yeah, when the wind's up, and because at some point in the race you're going to be going into that headwind for a while, and there's been some really tough years where the headwind's just been in the worst possible direction. It is, it's hard, isn't it? It's soul destroying.
It's funny though, isn't it? Afterwards.
Yeah. You forget about that bit, don't you? Just remember the good bit.
Yeah, until you've been interviewed in a podcast, and then you go, "Oh yeah, I remember that bit."
Yeah. So we notice we're getting a lot more riders at that, in those first few groups, and that definitely, I think a saying comes, which I think it might be a Eurosport saying, it's you're not going to win in the first 20k, but you could certainly lose your event in the first 20k. As you said, Phil, if you have an accident or fall off or or you overcook it, it can all be over in 20k. Whereas if you just look after yourself, at least you've got then the rest of the event in which to kind of see where you can end up at. So
yeah, definitely.
Neil, in terms of starts from your perspective, what would you sort of say? What would be your sort of takeaway for riders?
Just don't get carried away. There was one year that you introduced me, I don't know if you can remember or not, over the loudspeaker, and I came along and you introduced me and I got into the front group straight away, and I think I lasted, and Phil, you must have been there at that stage, I must have lasted probably 30-40k before I dropped back, because it was just going absolutely nuts, and it was just like, there's no way I can do that at all. So advice to other people is just do your own pace, enjoy it. If you're going there to get your best time, that's great, that's brilliant, but I would think 80 to 90% of people that are going there are going to enjoy the ride, the environment, the nature, the wilderness, what it is. Just take your time and enjoy it. Just get round, eat plenty, and just don't get excited straight away. And I get excited so much, and I have made so many mistakes by bobbing to the front of triathlons and getting swam over, getting to the front of bike races and just getting swallowed up and spat out the back.
Yeah,
just enjoy it. Just do with your own pace and enjoy it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I remember one year, and again, so I can't remember which one it was. It's probably 6th or 7th year. I can't quite remember, but I was feeling quite confident that I was going to stick with the front group this year, because I think maybe the previous year I'd dropped off the front group. I wasn't quite up to it, and I remember I was feeling fit. I was feeling on it, and we were flying along in the car. Had put the truck had pulled off, and everybody was heading off down the forest, and then I dropped a chain. It just and I could just see everybody go, and I just thought, so I quickly got the chain back on. As by that point, like hundreds of people have passed me, and the worst mistake I made was, right, I've got to get back on that front group. So I remember just absolutely smashing it for the next 10 or 15k, and I got within a touching distance of the front group, and then I just went pop. And then I just spent the rest of the day just chewing the bars, and it was just the most, I obviously still enjoyed it, and I love that sort of stuff, but I made it so tough for myself.
It just shows that even the best riders can have the off days. It was interesting, actually. I can't remember, and I probably said this before, but I remember the year that Nico Roach did it, and he was obviously really well up there until, I don't know, 10-15k to go, and he had a puncture, and he came back and said, I got my puncture, realised I wasn't going to come first, so I just recalibrated my expectations for the day and carried on.
Yeah.
And what you've got to do, you've just got to kind of think, well, this is where I'm at this moment in time. If it's not where I expected to be, I need to make a different reality for myself, don't you? So
that's it. And I think for the majority of riders, and it's the way I ride it now, and I've done for the last 3 or 4 years. I'm not going to be in the front group. Age has caught on me a little bit, and there's much better riders out there. It's more about a time. For me now, it's like, right, what are my best times doing the course, and kind of better those times, and that's a much better way for riders to sort of like challenge themselves, really, rather than worrying if you're going to be up there at the front, because the quality of it's field now. You're going to have to be elite rider if you're going to be up there at the front.
That's true. Yeah. There's a lot of just moving on a little bit. There's obviously regular chat about how popular gravel is becoming. We've all been around now for quite a few years and seen how it's developed. What is it, do you think, that's making it so popular? What is it, Phil? Why do you think there are so many people wanting to kind of get involved, more so than other aspects of the sport? I mean, you can argue that potentially e-bikes are probably selling more bikes, but you look at gravel events and they're totally different to any other type of event. You look at a road race, you're limited to, certainly domestic 60 riders-ish, is it thereabouts? And internationally, it might be 100 and odd. And you look at time trialing, completely different. You look at mountain biking, maybe XC. I mean, I don't know what sort of category numbers you get these days, but certainly when you look at it on telly, you're never looking at more massive numbers of riders. Whereas gravel, it's just like, it's so busy, isn't it?
Yeah. From some of the conversations I've we had with friends at the cross races, and I do some of the mountain bike races, the shorter mountain bike races now. I think the numbers are down. I think British Cycling are showing that the numbers are down, particularly in cross, I think, this year. But yeah, as you say, gravel is just getting bigger and bigger. And I think it's difficult to say, to pinpoint, but it's just much more accessible for a wider group of people, isn't it? And I think, maybe people who ride on the road who wouldn't really be interested in doing something technical in the mountains on a mountain bike would be happy to go off-road on a gravel bike because it's not as technical. And whereas then you look at it from the other side, is someone someone who rides a mountain bike and rides a bit on the road, but they're just happy to get on any bike and ride anywhere, aren't they? And if it's off-road, that's more beneficial because you're not battling into the cars. So I think it just opens itself up to just a wider demographic, doesn't it? And it's easier for people to get into. And also, it's just another bike for people to buy. They've got mountain bikes, they've got road bikes, they've got cross bikes. It gives them another excuse to be another +1 bike, doesn't it?
Yeah. And how are you seeing that, Neil? What's your observation?
I just think it's going from strength to strength, and I think it's one of those things that it's an inclusive, whether you're up at the pointy end of races or whether you're just want to do it for a personal challenge. I think the gravel community is just such a welcoming community. If you see Phil at the end, he's more than happy to chat to you about different stuff and have a laugh and talk to you. As in other kind of disciplines, there's a bit of an elitism going on, and I don't see that in gravel at all. And I think that's what's brilliant about it. Nico Roach, when he was there, he was sitting down at the end having beers on a picnic bench, just chatting rubbish to people. And it was brilliant to see it. It really was. And I think that's what's really appealing to me, is just so inclusive for everyone. And that's what I really like seeing about it.
And I think as well, I think particularly for the Dirty Reiver though, I think that you've captured the essence of that, because the venue where it's at is amazing. And, the setup that, your organisation for the whole event is superb. But when everybody finishes, it's that just spending an hour, 2 or 3 hours, whatever it is, just chilling out, going to the stalls, having a beer, swapping stories. I don't know, the Dirty Reiver, I've done a lot of gravel races, but there's nothing quite like the end of the Dirty Reiver for just thinking about how your day's gone and just sort of sharing your experiences with people. And you're right, I think it's the type of people as well, Neil, who just make it really, because they're they're up for that event. Some people are doing it's a real adventure, isn't it? They've never done anything this long before. They've been so nervous running up to the event, and then it's over, and then they're just all sharing those experiences afterwards. It's just you've captured that really well on the Dirty Reiver, I think.
You can see people at the start, and you can see people that have come with their families that whether it's mum or dad and their families are there, they are so worked up about eating the right things before they set off, making sure that they're right. And you can see they're in such a state already that I make an A-line to go and chat to them and just say, it's an event, don't worry about it. We'll get you around, we'll support you as much as possible. Just do your own thing. And when you come back, come and let us know, how did it go? And it just sort of relaxes them, and you can see that. And Dirty Reiver is different for every single person, but it's at the end when it really comes together, and I think that's such an amazing thing to see. It really is.
No, I completely agree. Yeah.
So obviously, kind of 10 years is a long time, and when I think back over the 10 years, there's certainly been some memorable years. And we often say, kind of Dirty Reiver, when you're packing your kit, you could potentially be packing for all weathers in one single day. Any standout years for you, Phil, in terms of, weather? Let's talk weather first of all. We like to talk about weather, don't we?
Well, I think that when you think back over the 10 years, and it's always a race, apart from the 1 year after COVID, it's always in April. So the weather could go either way in Kielder, couldn't it? It could be a winter's day, or it could be a beautiful spring, early summer day. But we've only had one bad weather day, haven't we? Out of those 10, there was only one when it was wet. And
That's it now. You're going to spoil it now. This year's going to be horrendous.
Let's do the touchwood and all that sort of stuff.
yeah, well, it'd be perfect this year. It'd be beautiful. But we haven't, we've been okay. We've had, it has rained on other races, but not, that was quite a tough day out for particularly the people who were taking who were out there for 9, 10, 11, 12 hours, because it was a long time out in those weather conditions. But other than that, generally we've had reasonably good weather. We had snow on the first one, didn't we? We had snow flurries on the first one, and I think it was a bit of snow on the second one. And wind has been a problem, hasn't it, Neil, on a number of them? But it made it tougher. But the standout for me for all the different weather types we've had is actually once you're on the bike and you're moving, it doesn't, and you're putting the effort in, you can get through the day. It's just that start line in the morning. And I remember the first year me and Dave were in his camper van. I remember coming out in the morning, it was still dark, and the bikes were just covered in ice and the van's covered in ice. And like you're thinking, well, I don't want to really dress up with loads of stuff because I know in an hour in the race I'm going to be absolutely boiling. So that was always the challenge. It was like, what can I wear? Where I'm not going to freeze to death on the start line, but I'm going to be comfortable, an hour or two later on. That was I've always found the tricky thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And what we did last year, Phil, is anybody that chucked a jumper, because people come with all jumpers on, don't they, and chuck them over the start line.
Yeah.
Any ones that not claimed at the end, they all go to charity now. So
right. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Good thing.
I do remember a couple of times ripping off sort of gilet or some, a coat on the first food stop and asking, the people to, who were on the food stop to bring it back, which was a bit cheeky, really, because if everyone did that, they wouldn't have been able to bring it back. But I think I knew of someone on the food stop the first couple of times, and I did that.
Yeah, I think you're actually right. We have actually only had one event where it was damp, and interestingly enough, our biggest dropout rate for that event was in what I would say was the top 20% of the field. So it was more the people that had packed light, were traveling in skin suits or not a lot else. And interestingly, the people that were doing the kind of the more adventure, the longer day out, they actually fared quite well because they were a bit better prepared, and they actually finished their ride in fairly decent conditions. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. But I think the one standout weather-wise for me was the one where we had something like, it was like nearly 20 degrees, and we actually treated a couple of people for heat stroke. It was absolutely roasting. I can't remember what year that was. I could probably go back through the pictures and look for the one where the people got the sun cream on. But we definitely have had a pretty good run, to be honest. So touch wood.
I think this comment's tied in a little bit with the weather, but generally when we've been riding, I think Kielder Forest is absolutely spectacular. It's such a beautiful place, and when we've been riding and it's been grey and cloudy, you've not really sort of soaked in some of the views. But I remember on some of the hot ones, or at least what felt like the spring days where the beautiful weather, I'd always make an effort at some point in the ride to be looking around and going, look where we are, absolutely in the middle of nowhere, riding your bikes all day long. This just doesn't get any better than this, because it's such a beautiful place.
And no phone signal.
And no phone signal, yeah. Good for us, maybe not for you guys organising it.
Yeah, tell us. Yeah. Tell us.
Brilliant. Well, I was just going to kind of finish off with a few quick fire questions. And just I'm going to fire these at both of you just to see and they're on the sheet I sent through. But so for both of you, we'll go Neil first. What's your favourite section of course?
The last hill.
Up to the pub.
yeah. Rolling down it to go to the pub. Just coming up that last little bit, Castle Hill or whatever they call it, because there's such an atmosphere there, and everybody starts to pump the legs to try and get up faster, and there's everyone shouting, ringing bells, stuff around there. That is always been the best thing for me. It really has.
Yeah.
What about you, Phil? Best section?
Yeah. Section. Well, I know it. It changes every 3 years, but I think for 2 of the sets of 3, the finish has always brought you around the north side of Kielder, and it'd be funny that every year I'd never quite remember the mileage until you got to the and you go until you got to the lake. But you know, your body could feel the fact that it's got to be near because I'm absolutely knackered. and then just when you actually hit the lake, and then you knew you had that cinder track and its beautiful little ups and downs around. I think that's really nice because you get that second wind. You know, you've only got 10, 15 miles to go. It's a nice track. It's a beautiful location, and the majority of those nasty hills are behind you. I think that's probably my favourite bit.
Yeah, nice. Top tip then for a newbie, either a what to carry or what to remember. I'm going to go with you first, Phil. Top tip for a newbie.
I know they're expensive, but buy inserts for your tires because they just reduce the number of punches you're potentially going to get. And you know, when you're riding over such a long distance, you don't want to be, you don't want to be faffing about putting inner tubes in and all of that. So since I've rode inserts, they're comfier, and you just get that better confidence really in the fact that hopefully you're not gonna get any, get a puncher.
No, I didn't think you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Go on,
Neil. What to carry? Food that you like, because you'd eat it, rather than food that you carrying because you think it's going to give you X, Y, or Z. You need to eat, and if it's going to be food that you like, you'll eat it.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Yeah.
Back pocket question then next. So, what one thing would you not go without in your back pocket, Neil?
Pump, a physical pump. I've had canisters in the past, and I've run out of canisters, and I've no way of blowing anything up. It's only like a pocket size thing. It fits in there, and I would not leave home without it.
We do actually get, Phil, asked by a lot of people that are run tubeless, do I actually need to take a pump?
Yes.
So we get asked a lot by people. Do I still need a pump? Really interesting that one. So Phil, you back pocket. What one thing would you not go without in your back pocket?
Well, I'll not go for a bit of kit then. I'll go for on all the long distance stuff I do. I always have one really strong caffeine gel, and at a certain point in the race, usually about 2/3 in, I'll have that caffeine gel because I'll have had caffeine before the race. Yeah. So that's what on every race that I do. I bought some. I can't remember the make of them. This was about 3 years ago now, and I bought some new types of caffeine gel a make I'd not had before. And I thought that I bought two colours. One was a yellow one was a red one, and I was pretty sure that the yellow one was the non-caffeine and the red one was the caffeine. And when I got back and I'd had something like 4 or 5 of the yellow ones, and Dave Powell said to me, "They're the caffeine ones, Phil. No wonder you're absolutely wired." And I was completely wired all the way home. All that night I couldn't sleep. Yeah, so I've not made that mistake since.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's brilliant. So ride strategy is the next one. Before we get one last question. I think you're first this, Phil. What's your general ride strategy?
It's different now to what it used to be, but generally I make sure that I keep within under a certain. I don't ride with a power meter on my gravel bike. I probably should. So I just ride with a heart rate monitor, and in the first probably 15, 20, 25k, I try and stick to a limit I know that I'll be able to manage. Yeah. And then by the time I'm through, your 25k in, hopefully everything's calmed down a little bit, and you've not burnt too many matches.
Yeah, good one. Yeah. What about you for strategy, Neil?
Not getting carried away to start off with. That's what I've learned, is just take it easy. And if I've got energy at the end, and I've learned this from a really good friend, if I've got energy at the end, that's the time to burn those matches at the end. If you've got 5 matches left, burn them in the last hour, because you will overtake everybody in sight. You really will. I can always remember we went on a trip once, slightly on a different tangent, and we were coming back. It was coming in dark, and I'd nearly burnt all my matches, but the friend that I was with hadn't. And they started to put the power down. We were on next to a canal. It was dark. We didn't have any lights. Highly, highly irresponsible, we know. and all of a sudden the close friend started to go up a lock on the actual wall next to the lock. So he could have fallen one way and gone right in, or fallen the other way and gone onto a track. But because he had matches, he went straight up the top and carried on. I ended up pushing up it. It was scary to see it happening. But those matches at the end.
You ride with some very dodgy company there, Neil. So last question. It's what happens when the going gets tough. So I think this is you first on this one, Neil. So when the going gets tough,
just enjoy where it is, but also talk to yourself. I talk to myself loads, whether it's out loud or in my head, and I break the mileages down going forward. About if it's 100k to go, I'll break it down into 20 kilometers worth each time, just so it's digestible pieces that I can monitor, and then break it down. And before you know it, you've only got 20k to go. And if you've got 2 matches left, go for it. But yeah, just talk to myself, manage myself through it, get into my own head, and just So I do feel sorry for anybody that's around me at that stage.
What about you, Phil? Does the going ever get tough?
Oh, I think it happens for everybody. There's always a point in the race where you're gonna have a low spot, and I completely agree with Neil that breaking things down into chunks, working through whether it's the next 5k or 10k or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But actually, when you're feeling bad on a long distance ride, it will definitely be something to do with nutrition. More often than not, if you just start to eat and drink, you will feel a whole lot better. And it's probably the fluid. And that's one of the tricky things on the Dirty Reiver is if you're not carrying a big Camelback with loads of liquid in it and you're relying on the feed stops, it's a long way between the feed stops. So there are a lot of people that get quite dehydrated. And that's the first thing I'd say. If you're having a tough time, eat and drink, and hopefully you'd start to feel a bit better.
Yeah. No, I think that's all super good advice. Well, both, thank you very much. That was super insightful, brought back a lot of memories. It's interesting, Phil, that we both resorted to looking back at the pictures because our aging memories couldn't quite remember what happened in 2017, 28.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's been great to chat to you both and talk about 10 years of Dirty Reiver. So we look forward to seeing you at the event, Phil, on the front row with your nice, cheery, smiley face. And
I'll be there.
And you'll see Neil, but he'll be on the other side of the fence. So.
I certainly will. I'll be stressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, nice one, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Neil, that was the very lovely Phil Simcock. It does make organising events so worthwhile when you get somebody like that you meet year on year, event on event, that is so positive about taking part and really, really appreciates the organisation that goes into these events.
Yeah, and it's such a nice bloke about through whether he's riding it, sitting at having a chilled out beer at the end or whatever he is. And it's just like he understands all of it, which is brilliant. And I'm sure there's many people out there do, but he's very good, very vocal at saying that as well. And it's stunning, really. It really is. Yeah, really nice bloke.
Yeah, and a complete legend when you look at what he's done over the years through so many different disciplines. Very, very accomplished.
And he could be, with his expertise and what he's done, he could be on the other side of it. It's like, don't talk to me. Do you know who I am? But he's not, and he's so down to earth. It's really good. Yeah. And by the way, I thought the other guy on there as well was really good.
Ah, right. That was Neil, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Should we move on from him?
Tell you what, though, it does just show that you need to make sure you get your glasses on and know the difference between a caffeine and a non-caffeinated.
I bet it was wired for a week after that.
Yeah. So Phil's also done our Frontier 300 event last year, which was really nice to see because that's just a nice stepping stone. He's doing the 200k in the spring. And for those of you who don't know, our Frontier 300 events, supported by Scott, is a coast to coast, and that's a proper adventure, isn't it, Neil?
Oh, it's brilliant. It is. It starts off in southwest Scotland, finishes in northeast England, coast to coast. You can do it in 1 day. You can do it in 2 days. It's just such a really nice event. It really is. And the people that come along, the Reiver's great because I mean it's vast. You're just seeing people banging through it all the time. But the Frontier 300, you actually get to know these people as well, and you see them going through all their emotions through it all. And it's, you know, when we're at Feed Station 3 at Kielder, you can just see some people are really bouncing. Other people really need either a kick or some, you know, some supportive words. You know, it's great to see it. It really is.
That's where them caffeine gels come in then. Yeah, for those of you who've not looked at the Frontier 300, it is coast to coast, as Neil said. It crosses between the Scottish and English border. It starts at Colvend, which is near Dalbeatty, on the west coast of Scotland, very, very early in the morning. And it finishes at Druridge Bay, which is in the northeast coast, on the stunning beach there. We have two options. We have a kind of an all-road option, which is 50-50 gravel and road. And that route passes through some amazing forests along the route. It obviously passes through some sections of Kielder, goes into Walk, it goes out towards Simonside, and on the Scottish side, it goes through Eskdale Muir, it goes through Ayr Forest, Maybe Forest, Dalbeatty, and the list goes on. And it's linked together by really, really nice, quiet cycle lanes and cycle routes between. For those of you that like a bit of punishment, as Phil did, you can do it in 1 day if you want. But we do also have a more leisurely bike packing style 2-day option, which covers exactly the same route. And both events finish on the same night, Saturday night at Druridge Bay. But we got a new option this year, Neil. You've been working on that. What can you tell us a bit more about that one?
So for the 2-day version, we've got a road only, so a tarmac only all the way through. So if you feel as if the gravel sections at times are a little bit too energy sapping for you, there's a road version as well this time. But still, overnight's the same place as the gravel riders as well, and also fits on most of the road sections that the gravel riders use as well. So there could be some really good conversations at night.
Yeah. So, you know, if you're not into gravel so much, or maybe you've got a partner, a member of the family that prefers to ride on the road, or if you have done it before and you didn't quite like that little hiker bike section, then the road version is definitely worth a look. It's got all the social side of it, all the camaraderie, the coast to coast, the cross border, everything that the original Frontier 300 event has, but without that little hiker bike section.
Yeah, there's definite feedback about the hiker bike, but that's part of the journey for me. It really is. But then, you know, horses for courses. So we've listened, we've adapted, and we've done that. So it'll be really good this year. Be really good indeed.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll sign off on that one and look forward to catching up with you in the next podcast.
Will do. Okay, dokie. See you all later. Happy graveling.